Yeah, let's continue, right? After so long, I'm gonna come back and continue. Well, not really the story that I left off with. Not really love is like hunting. Let's let's move on to something interesting, like economy. That's interesting. Well, let me justify that. Let me say why. What is the good reason for that to go to a new topic like this? So I ask myself, is it always going to be like this? Is it always going to be like hunting? Because, well, in hunter-gatherer times, I'm not sure it was like that at all. You were not going to dates at that point. I'm not even sure how people just got together at that stage and how it evolved. That's something I will probably think about, but it definitely wasn't like that. The main purpose was surviving, and I guess the attraction was just basic survival as well. So I'm not sure it was based on something very important rather than if you can hunt, we can survive, we can make family and stuff like that. Well, these days it's that and much more than that. So what we're gonna evolve into is gonna be even more. Basically, we will be able to handle a lot more in the future. So what is this gonna be next step? And we're probably not gonna be deviating from the hunting part too much because we're gonna be adding more. This is just a point that just came out to me, like not really changing, but we're adding on, we are upgrading. I hate the word change, so I just figured out it doesn't really fit here. If you talk about the transition from hunter and gatherer times. Anyways, so what is the reason I'm gonna talk about economy again? Well, there are a few things, but welcome to the blackboard, because this is not really a story time. This is gonna be a lot of explanations and a lot of theories. Basically, this is how I understand how stuff works. So, first we need to understand the transition itself. And the economy is the basis of this transition because you'll understand where we are now and the point where the transition is going to end is based on one economic principle or a thing. Once it's done, we're gonna be fully in the B position. Anyways, we also have certain other things to think about, questioning what is government in the first place, what is inflation and money, like the basis or the currency of the economy. And then there's a question, what is democracy? Because this also assigned to the system of how it works, how everything works, or perhaps it's just barely democracy. So let's move on. So what is the transition again? And why it's so important on economy? Well, the transition will happen. We will get to the point B once all the humans are gonna be supported by robots. All the resources that we need to survive are gonna be created not by hard work, but automatically. And all the other jobs, basically we're gonna be losing almost all non-creative, repetitive jobs. So what we're gonna be left with are the creative ones. And currently, the economy is outdated to control the creative jobs. That is for sure. It's weird how we have minimum wage and stuff like that. I probably should add this as well, but I'm not gonna talk about it right now. So there are like minimum wages, there are pensions, there are other things that I will, leave in the background to think about. Anyways, and again, this knowledge has been accumulated by me, and this is my interpretation of what the fuck is going on. I'm hearing some economic crises out of the corner. Well, it's probably no surprise once you're gonna be learning all about this. So this is how it probably should work. Like, what is the purpose of money in the first place? Money's supposed to flow. It shouldn't really stay in one position. It should make as many trades as possible. That is the only value of money. Money doesn't really hold any value. It's just we treat it as valuable and we're able to trade it. This is the only value that there is. And god damn it. Yeah. So this is the purpose of money. This is the value of money. And how does this is achieved? Well, let's see the inflation graph. We have the source, the bank, and you should have noticed by now that bank and currency all talking about the money, or not really money, but the flow of something, right? So we have this flow. Bam. All of what's outside is the trading, or ideally it would be all outside, but probably more than a half of the money that goes outside doesn't really flow anywhere, which means the people that have the money are storing it for something else, and or simply not spending the money. So they are storing the money, and bank cannot access that. So the only way the money can be taken away from this portion where it doesn't flow is just solid stuff. It's just garbage, basically. People might have accumulated value for themselves, but that money is becoming garbage because it doesn't make its, primary value. It doesn't make its value. So in the system, in the whole system, it is trash. And the way bank tries to deal with it, because, well, if it overflows with trash, well, it's just gonna stop. The economy is just gonna collapse because there is not money doesn't flow, so trades cannot happen. So the way that you figure out if economy is about to collapse, well, trades are going down. At least this is the hint that I've gained after one recent video I watched. So yeah. So how does the bank deal with this stuff? How does the bank tries to clean the trash. Well, there's one inefficient way that the bank tries to deal with that. Bank is trying to inflate. So basically becomes bigger, right? The value doesn't change, or shouldn't really change while the bank is inflating. The value is still the same size, the whole economy, still in the same shape. But the bank inflates, and what was outside of the bank now is going to be inside of the bank. And how is this created? Well, bank creates more money. It doesn't create value, it just creates more money. So in the whole money flow, where everything is, this is all money. It is all determined by money. The size of these parts are determined how much money is there. So if bank creates more money, it becomes bigger, and these parts now have less money, basically, in the ratios of the bank and stuff like that. So bank basically inflates. There is less trash, seemingly less trash. It's not less, the amount of money is still the same out there, but the value now is less. So that's how bank kind of regains the value. The flow is also decreased. So it's really difficult to say if inflation is actually even useful. It's just simply banks gaining value, and somehow they have to give to the flow, or economy is still gonna collapse, because the economy is collapsing if nothing is flowing, obviously. So this is one of the ways the bank tries to deal with the stagnation of money. Also, there's another big entity like stock market that is trying to forcefully make the money flow. It's basically not human interface, but it's not human interactions that makes the money flow, but it's usually mechanized to the point where robots do algorithms, invest into certain things, and it just forcefully makes the money flow. Perhaps it's a valid way to make it flow, but I think it should be 100% organic flow, basically. I mean, when you see the water, it does look like an algorithm, but with the money it's probably a little bit more difficult to make it non-organic and still make it a good kind of flow. So, as you can see, the system is pretty damn complex when it comes to fixing itself, and it doesn't really do justice because it takes money from both sides, or value from both sides, because the bank inflates in all directions. One way to deal with this is simply say, how can we know when money is stagnating, right? When money is stale, and we could drain that back into the source. Also, the source shouldn't be controlled by separate entities, and here's why. But we now have to come back to the other key point: democracy, and now the government. Should the government exist? How does democracy is evolving, and where are we going with that? So here's the thing: at the start of the transition, the very beginning, when we started the transition in the first place, because this is transition and we are always in transition, we have to understand that, is that once we reach a certain point, we're now gonna be entering another stage, another transition, but we always in a transition. So while we're at the start of the transition, we had to make someone control almost everything. So basically this is what the government originated with. We kind of had democracy, but we kind of didn't. Democracy grew out of the need to create a point which controls everything. So basically right now, at the moment, we have kind of an illusion that democracy is creating this control point. Democracy is basically stealing control from other people and give it to more intelligent. The thing is, while the transition is going, there are more and more intelligent people that are not involved in politics. And the ratio is probably now a lot higher than it was before. It's probably, if you manage the IQ of the highest and the amount of politicians that are out there, it might actually be 1.5. That's how smarter certain people are. But IQ is not the main thing. It's how well can you make changes to the world, or how well can you make decisions, how well can you control stuff. And well, yeah, there's a lot of corruption, obviously, because there has to be. Because if you see the population, there are so many smart people that could make much better decisions. So why they are not making those decisions? Why they're not helping? Why they're basically useless? They're basically the same kind of people, have the same vote capacity. They are not basically recognized. The only people that are recognized are on the top of the pyramid. This is where democracy has to evolve, has to move forward and say that, well, this person is smart, this person is smart, this one is smart. So their word also matters to a certain point, much more than people who don't know things that they should know to be recognized as smart in politics or whatever. You have to have skills. So this is where it gets interesting, because what knowledge is, it's fundamentally a destruction of equality. Yeah. And this is why it is. Once you know where to draw the money from, you cannot inflate in equally in all directions. Once you know how to do this, how to draw the money, where the money is, you cannot do invalid move and just take from all the sides. Same things goes here. If you know, if you can determine which people are smart in certain subjects, now the way where we treat everyone as equal becomes obsolete, basically. We cannot treat this because we have to evolve by the knowledge. What knowledge gives us, we have to take, and we have to move from the equality, actually analyzing the data and understanding how much value we should give to the people that deserve. You know, once we understand, we must move away from the equality. The equality is just a basis of no knowledge. Like we can say, well, genders have to have equality, right? No. No, they don't. If we have the knowledge, we should understand that they don't. And I'm gonna be talking about that as well. It's a controversial statement, I know, but I'll give you the knowledge of why there shouldn't be equality. But obviously, you know, genders are fundamentally different, so it's impossible. Equality is impossible, fundamentally. At least in a physical sense, but it moves on quite dramatically even further. The further you go, the more dramatic change is, obviously. It's like stacking up blocks. You make a mistake, oh, like a Tower Blocks game, and the further you go, the more dramatic that mistake is gonna be. So, you know, don't think that it's just the looks that defines gender. The further you go, the more gender there is, the more depth there is. Anyways, where could we move on? I'm gonna finish the presentation with an interesting idea of how... Oh yeah, so how do we fix that? Well, easy. Very easy. We simply gain the knowledge, right? So we determine which people are smart and how to make their vote actually mean something. So we have the smartphones, right? We have all this technology. We can easily determine, easily apply score to other people. And what that would mean also, let's say for YouTube as example. I'm giving this example in my main video where I'm coming back for 2016. So no longer subscriber count would actually matter. Like, yeah, you have 200 million idle users. It's the same thing. You have to calculate the value. How much value is there in this number? Maybe half of them are immature people or idle. You know, they completely don't understand what the fuck is going on in those videos, or maybe they don't even watch them. Only like 10% are really huge fans of the content. Other people, you know, just pass by from time to time. So you really would start to calculate the value as well. I mean, also you would look for those individuals that also are YouTubers themselves, or are just simply important people that watch the videos, that understand about art and creativity and all the stuff like that. So you would also look for those and give them more value. Like, if they are there in this circle watching the videos, they should give more value to the YouTuber as well. So if we can calculate this value, we can actually understand which YouTube channel is the best, not the most popular, which one is the best, which one should you watch. Like, the best that we got so far is the rating, likes and dislikes. If you see the video goes like this, it's either very controversial or it's just not watchable, you know. It has to be at least like 80% for it to be good. So that's that. Yeah, that's the closest we get to democracy, is like voting, right? But we still have to determine how much vote is there. We hardly can shift from the equality because we say like, oh my god, we need equality, but we don't. If we want to move with the knowledge, we need to get rid of the equality. because there is justice. We need to move to justice instead of equality. That's the real equality. That's the new stage of equality. It's justice. You provide this much value, you're gonna get this reward. You provide this much of value, you're gonna get this much reward. Simple justice must be applied. And this can only happen once we are fully independent, we're fully dependent on the machines to make all the resources that we need. Once we are creative and we don't know what to do, well, there's a lot of to do. Because once we are dependent, we suddenly understand, why do we need money in the first place? Well, we need money to promote ourselves, to promote our creative work. This is the only reason why we would need money at that point, to get the equipment or something like that. So we will start to understand that once we're in this point. But at this point we already should have the things, so we are starting to understand that right now, especially me, I guess. Anyways, so I'll end up the video with an interesting point. What would be the prison of this system if it would be in place and everyone would be scored a certain amount? Like, one person would be scored 10, another person would be scored 70 or something like that. Now the score, it's basic value. How much value are you creating in this world? I'm not sure if it's value over time or it's just pure value that you have accumulated in total. It's probably going to be total value, but it's probably going to also decrease because it's going to be linked with the currency that you will have, and it has to slowly decrease. The trash has to slowly come to the bank, slowly flow to the bank. If you're not using money, it's going to decrease. So also, because everything is digital, it's very easy to take money which is stagnating, right? So this is how it would work. Now, again, this requires all digital money, not cash, all digital. This is why, the government wants digital money, but there are, of course, other things. I mean, of course, the control is there. The tool to control is there. And whichever gets this tool first, we the people, democracy, or the government, will determine if we are actually able to get the transition that we want, not somebody else. So this is important. So yeah, we have different scores for different people. You're smarter, you have accumulated more experiences. Obviously a child is less experienced than an old man, so obviously we would expect an old man to have some more value than the child. So their likes or their ratings, whatever they choose to rate, 5 stars, yeah. Kid, you don't matter. This old man, if he actually playing the game or rating art, any kind of other art form, well, that guy matters a little bit more, right? And we don't care about equality this time. Anyways, so what about the prisons? Well, if you don't create value, you are creating destruction, right? Because any amount of value actually works. You have enough resources to survive, so if you're making minimum amount of value, it's okay. You can do whatever you want, as long as people are not unhappy with you and stuff like that, and they don't rate you down, because people are also able to rate them up or down depending, what they choose to do. with their score, because they have to sacrifice their score as well. I mean, the system is kind of complicated once you don't have your hands on it. This is why I want to make a game out of it, so people could play with the system. I want to make a community so people could, not only play with the system, but play in the system in the real world applications, So this is what I'm aiming for, to test the system, to make the transition at some point, in some community at least, and maybe it's gonna explode into something big. So what about the prisons? You get the score lower than 0, and you have to go to a rehabilitation center. And this is basically what I call the school, the real school, You have to learn some skills, right? You have to learn some things that you can do in order to produce value. You also have to, fix things that made you go negative in the first place, right? Because to go negative, you actually have to destroy something really fundamental. Also, you probably don't have a certain amount of parents, one or two parents, right? Because parents would support you, parents would actually teach you in the system. You don't really have to go to school because, well, what are you going to do afterwards? There's no clear path, and there shouldn't be clear path. The school shouldn't be mandatory. The only reason why school is mandatory is because the system wants value from you. It wants a certain amount of value. You cannot go not below 0, but not below 20. And this, once this reaches 0, once this need of value from people reaches 0, we also gonna be losing schools as well. Again, you all see that. Economy sometimes is now breaking up because it's outdated. The schools are getting less and less important in people's lives. The transition is happening, but whoever gets first, right? Is the system gonna be outdated and we're gonna be ahead of it and just fall down and start all over again? I don't know what's gonna happen once we get too much ahead with the outdated system. So it's really dangerous to go too far ahead. Of course, the system should not also override us. If the government controls the system, if they get ahead, that is also very dangerous. So we have to stay in balance until the transition is over. Anyways, I hope you got some ideas. I hope this was an interesting presentation, and I'll do some Blackboard stuff in the future, obviously. Oh yeah, it's still red. Still red. See you guys next time. Oh, and don't forget to ask questions for the next video. I'm probably gonna be talking about, the pensions. The taxes are pretty obvious. It's just another way to get the money back for the banks and the government. Thing is, again, the source is what makes the decisions, so it has to also have some money so it could push into the flow once it makes decisions to do something, right? To do something big. So this is what the source is needed for, so it could push money to control stuff, right? Okay. So yeah, there are a few things left out. Ask me questions so I wouldn't leave even more things out and wouldn't have to make more parts of the video. Anyways, I'm signing off right now for sure. See you guys next time.